The broken alien. The night was quiet. Stars burned far above, shining over the wreck of an old battlefield. Metal was broken, ships lay in pieces, and smoke drifted like ghosts. In the middle of this forgotten place, something moved. It was not human. She was small, her skin pale blue, her body thin and weak. 2 wings hung from her back, but they were broken, torn like paper. Long ago, she had been able to fly. Long ago, she had belonged to a people who were proud and strong. But not anymore. They had left her here. She was disabled, too weak to fight, too different to be of use. Her people saw her as shame. They abandoned her on this battlefield, believing she would die alone. For many days she crawled, searching for food, drinking the bitter rain. She whispered to herself in her alien tongue, the only voice she had left, but tonight, something was different. Footsteps. That a man walked across the metal ruins, holding a small light in his hand. He was human, dressed in a dark jacket, his boots crunching on broken steel. His name was Daniel, a traveler, a scavenger searching for old parts to sell. He did not expect to find anyone alive here. Then he saw her. The alien girl froze. Her glowing eyes watched him with fear. She tried to hide her broken wings under her arms, but she was too slow. Daniel stopped, his heart racing. He had heard stories of her kind, dangerous, cold, killers in the war. He raised his light, ready to defend himself, but then, he saw the truth. She was not dangerous. She was shaking, weak, her hands trembling as she tried to crawl away. She looked less like a monster and more like a lost child. Daniel lowered his light. "Hey," he whispered softly, his voice calm, "I won't hurt you." The alien tilted her head, confused. She did not understand his words, but his tone felt different. Not cruel. Not hateful. For a long time they stared at each other, human and alien, 2 enemies from 2 worlds. The silence was heavy. The wind carried the smell of ash. Somewhere in the distance, metal groaned. Then she spoke. Her voice was weak, broken like her body. The sound was strange, but Daniel could feel the fear inside it. He slowly stepped closer. The girl backed away, her hands clawing at the ground. But she was too weak. She could not escape. Daniel knelt down. His eyes softened. He reached out his hand. "You're hurt, aren't you?" The alien stared at his hand. Her people had called humans filthy, cruel, unworthy. But this man's eyes showed something else. Pity. Maybe even kindness. For the first time in many days, she felt a spark of hope, but before she could touch his hand, the ground shook. A sound filled the night, low, rumbling, like thunder. Daniel looked up, eyes wide. The alien's body stiffened. She knew that sound. Her people were coming, not to save her. To finish what they started. She grabbed Daniel's wrist, her glowing eyes filled with fear. Her voice cracked as she whispered a single word in broken human tongue, "Run." Daniel froze. He looked at her, then at the dark sky where shadows began to move. He could not understand why she wanted to help him, but something inside him told him this moment was important. The alien girl, once rejected and forgotten, had chosen him, and together, their story had only just begun. The bond. The ruins were silent again after the rumbling faded. Daniel and the alien girl sat close together, hidden under the shadow of a broken ship. The night was cold, the stars sharp and bright. Daniel could not stop staring at her. Her skin glowed faintly in the dark, pale blue with silver veins under the surface. Her broken wings lay flat against the ground. They looked painful, like scars that would never heal. She watched him too, her glowing eyes following every move he made. She had been taught to hate humans, yet here was one sitting beside her without fear. Daniel pulled out a small water flask. He opened it slowly and placed it in front of her. "Drink," he whispered. The alien tilted her head. She did not understand his words, but she understood his action. Her thin hands reached forward. She drank, her throat trembling with each swallow. for the first time in days, she tasted clean water, her lips moved, trying to form a word. It came out broken, but Daniel caught it. Why? He frowned. Why, what? Her voice cracked again. Why, help? Daniel looked at her carefully. Because you're alive. Because you need help. She blinked. No one from her own people had ever spoken to her that way. They called her weak. They called her useless. Yet this human, her enemy, treated her as if she mattered. Slowly, she touched her chest. Lyra. Daniel realized it was her name. Lyra, he repeated softly. He pointed to himself. Daniel. For the first time, Lyra smiled, small, fragile, but real. The bond had begun, but danger still hunted them. A sound echoed in the distance, sharp and metallic, like weapons charging. Daniel stiffened. Lyra's eyes widened. She whispered in her own tongue, words Daniel could not understand. But he felt her fear. They're looking for you, Daniel said quietly, almost to himself. He didn't know how much she understood, but she nodded. Her wings twitched painfully. She grabbed his arm, her fingers tight. No, you. They kill you. Daniel blinked. He thought she was the target. But now he realized something worse. Anyone who stood beside her would also be hunted. By helping her, he had made himself a target too, and yet, he did not let go of her hand. Then we run together, he said firmly. Lyra stared at him. For the first time, someone had chosen to stand with her, even against death. The night stretched on. They moved slowly through the ruins, Daniel supporting her weak body. She leaned against him, her wings dragging behind. Every step was hard, but together they moved forward. At one point, Lyra stopped. She touched the ground with her hand, and suddenly her eyes glowed brighter. Strange symbols lit up across the broken metal floor, pulsing with light. Daniel stepped back in shock. What is that? He whispered. Lyra looked at him, her face pale. Bond, she said softly. You, me, bond. The light grew, surrounding them both. Daniel felt a strange pull inside his chest, as if his heartbeat was no longer his alone. For a moment, he saw visions, flashes of stars, battles, and a weapon hidden in the void. Then it was gone. Daniel gasped for breath. Lyra fell weakly against him. Her voice trembled. Now, you part of me. He held her, stunned. He did not fully understand what had happened, but he knew one thing for certain. Their fates were now tied together, and somewhere out in the darkness, hunters closed in. Lyra raised her head, her glowing eyes full of warning. Her voice was little more than a whisper, but it carried the weight of destiny. They come. The bond was real. And it had already changed everything. The hunt begins. The air was heavy with silence, broken only by the crunch of Daniel's boots on shattered metal. Lyra leaned against him, weak but alert, her glowing eyes scanning the shadows. She could feel them. The hunters, they were near. Once, long ago, those hunters had been her own people, proud warriors who fought with fire and steel. But to them, she was nothing. A broken wing, a failed soldier, a shame to their name. Now they came not to rescue her, but to erase her. Daniel felt her grip tighten on his arm. They're close, aren't they? He whispered. She nodded slowly. Her lips trembled as she forced out the word. Yes. The ruins stretched around them like a graveyard. Old ships lay in twisted shapes, their shadows deep and sharp. Daniel led her between the wreckage, searching for shelter. His heart pounded, his breath quick and uneven. He had never faced alien hunters before. But he knew one thing, if he left her, she would die, and he had already chosen. Suddenly, a sharp sound echoed, like glass shattering in the distance. Then came voices. Harsh, cold, not human. Lyra froze. Daniel pressed her against a broken wall, both of them holding their breath. 3 shadows appeared on the far ridge, tall and armored. Their armor shone faintly under the starlight, marked with glowing red lines. Each carried a weapon, long and sharp, humming with deadly energy. Lyra's whole body shook. She whispered in her own language, a prayer, maybe, or a warning. Daniel could not understand the words, but he understood her fear. The hunters moved with slow confidence. They knew she was near. Daniel pulled her closer, whispering, "Stay quiet. Stay with me." But before they could move again, one of the hunters lifted his weapon and fired. A blast of light cut across the ruins, smashing into the wall behind them. The ground shook, fire sparked, and Lyra screamed, "They had been found." Daniel grabbed her hand and pulled her into the ruins. They ran, stumbling over twisted metal and sharp stone. Energy blasts followed them, each one tearing apart the shadows. "Run!" Daniel shouted, though his legs burned and his chest ached. Lyra stumbled, her broken wings dragging. She fell to her knees. The hunters closed in, their steps heavy, their weapons glowing brighter. Daniel turned, standing between her and them. He had no weapon, only a piece of broken steel pipe he had grabbed from the ground. His hands shook, but his eyes were steady. "If you want her," he shouted, his voice shaking but strong, "you'll have to go through me." The hunters laughed, a cruel sound. They stepped closer, ready to strike him down, but then it happened. Lyra's body glowed. Her eyes flared like fire. Strange marks spread across her skin, the same symbols Daniel had seen when their bond first formed. Her broken wings twitched, then lifted slightly, glowing with strange energy. The hunters hesitated. One of them hissed in their alien tongue. "Impossible. She was broken. She cannot," but she could. A pulse of light burst from Lyra's body, knocking the hunters back. Daniel shielded his face, stunned by the force. The ground cracked, dust flying into the night. When the light faded, Lyra lay on the ground, breathing hard, her body trembling. But the hunters were no longer laughing. They looked at her with shock and fear. Daniel knelt beside her. "What did you just do?" Her voice was faint, almost gone. "The bond, power, but cost." Her eyes closed. The hunters regrouped, their weapons glowing once more. Daniel lifted the steel pipe, his teeth clenched. He knew he could not win. But he would not leave her. Then, slowly, Lyra opened her eyes again. And this time, her gaze burned brighter than before. The hunt had only just begun. The awakening. The night was broken by smoke and fire. The hunters circled like wolves, their red armor glowing in the shadows. Daniel stood in front of Lyra, holding nothing but a steel pipe, while her weak body glowed with faint light. The hunters laughed, but there was no joy in their voices, only cruelty. One of them raised his weapon. "The broken one must not live. End it." Daniel tightened his grip on the pipe. His knees shook, but he refused to step back. "You'll have to kill me first." The weapon charged. The hum grew louder, sparks of energy crawling across its surface. Daniel braced himself for death. Then, Lyra moved, her body jerked as if pulled by invisible strings. The glowing marks on her skin spread wider, running down her arms like fire. Her broken wings stretched, and for the first time, light poured from them. The hunters froze. One whispered, "It cannot be." She was rejected. But Lyra was no longer the same broken creature they had abandoned. A wave of energy burst from her body. The ground split, shards of metal flying into the air. Daniel was thrown back but quickly scrambled to his feet. He stared in shock as Lyra rose slowly, her eyes burning white, her voice echoing with power. "Do not touch him." The hunters hesitated. They had faced many enemies, but never this. Still, one of them charged, swinging his blade. Lyra lifted her hand. The air bent. The blade stopped in mid-swing, frozen by invisible force. The hunter struggled, but his weapon shattered like glass. With a flick of her fingers, she sent him flying into the ruins. Daniel's eyes widened. Lyra, but the power was not kind to her, she gasped, her body shaking violently. Her glowing wings flickered like dying flames. She dropped to her knees, clutching her chest. Blood ran from her lips. Daniel rushed to her side. Stop. You're hurting yourself. She looked at him, our glowing eyes dimming. Bond gives me strength, but it burns me. Every time I use it, I lose myself. Her words cut deep. This power was not a gift, it was a curse. The hunters regrouped, their leader stepping forward. He snarled. She is unstable. If she awakens fully, the weapon will answer her. Kill her now. Daniel helped Lyra to her feet. His voice shook but was steady. No. She's not your weapon. She's not your victim. She's with me. The hunters advanced. 3 against 2. Daniel raised his pipe again, knowing he could not win, then Lyra gripped his hand. Her skin burned hot, her pulse racing into his veins. Suddenly, Daniel felt it too, the bond. A strange fire lit inside his chest. He gasped, his vision flashing with stars and voices that were not his own. Through their connection, he saw her memories, her people abandoning her, her cries ignored, her shame carved deep into her heart. And yet, through all that pain, he saw her choice. She had chosen him, Lyra whispered, her voice soft but strong. Together. The hunters charged. Daniel moved faster than he thought possible. His pipe clashed against a glowing blade, sparks flying. It should have broken, but his arms felt stronger, guided by something greater. Lyra raised her hand, sending waves of energy to push the others back. For one brief moment, human and alien fought as one. But the cost was high. Lyra's body shook harder. Her wings dimmed. Daniel felt her pain burning through the bond. She was dying, little by little, every time she used her power. Still, she smiled faintly at him, even as her body collapsed into his arms. This is awakening. Not of power, but of bond. Her eyes closed, but her words stayed in his heart. The hunters pulled back, muttering in fear. They had not expected this. Their leader snarled. The awakening has begun. We must inform the council. And with that, the Y vanished into the darkness, leaving Daniel and Lyra alone. Daniel held her close, his heart racing. He did not know how long she had left, but he knew one truth. Her awakening had changed everything. The escape, the ruins were silent again, but Daniel knew the silence was a trap. The hunters were gone, yet their words echoed in his mind. The awakening has begun. Inform the council. That meant more would come. Stronger ones. That he looked down at Lyra in his arms. Her body was weak, her glowing wings dim like fading fire. Every breath she took sounded heavy, painful. We can't stay here, Daniel whispered. They'll return. We have to move. Her eyes opened slightly. She shook her head. No, too many. They hunt always. Daniel's jaw tightened. Then we run. We find somewhere they can't follow. Lyra tried to rise, but her legs trembled. Daniel helped her up, pulling her arm over his shoulder. Together, they stumbled through the wreckage, heading toward the edge of the battlefield. The night sky was wide, stars glittering above. In the distance, broken starships lay scattered like bones of giants. Some still hummed with faint energy, relics of the war that had destroyed them. As they passed one ruined ship, Lyra slowed. Her hand touched the metal, and strange symbols lit up under her fingers. Daniel stepped back, watching in awe as the dead ship responded to her touch. What is that? He asked. Her voice was weak, but her words clear. Memory. My people fought here. Many died. Ship remembers. The glowing symbols spread across the ship's hull, flickering like veins of light. Daniel felt a strange pull inside his chest again. the bond reacting to whatever she had awakened. Then an image burst into his mind, soldiers fighting, ships exploding, and at the center of it all, a massive weapon, hidden deep in the void. Daniel gasped, gripping his head. What was that? Lyra's eyes glowed faintly. Truth. They fear me, because I am key. Weapon sleeps, but bond wakes it. The words chilled him. She wasn't just an outcast. She was a key to something that could destroy entire worlds. Before Daniel could speak, a sharp sound echoed through the night. Engines that he turned, and his blood ran cold. Small hunter craft flew overhead, scanning beams sweeping across the ruins. The hunters had returned, and this time they brought machines. Go. Daniel hissed. He pulled Lyra into the shadows of the ship. The beams passed close, burning against the metal, but missed them. Lyra's breathing grew fast. They never stop. Daniel tightened his grip on her hand. Then neither will we. They ran, moving from wreck to wreck, ducking under broken wings of ships, climbing through shattered metal corridors. Each time a beam passed, Daniel pressed Lyra close, holding his breath. At last, they reached the far edge of the battlefield, where cliffs dropped into a dark valley below. The path was steep and dangerous, but it was the only way out. Daniel looked at her. Can you climb? She shook her head weakly. Too weak. He smiled faintly. Then hold on. He carried her on his back, step by step, down the jagged rocks. His muscles burned, his breath tore from his lungs, but he did not stop. Every stumble, every slip, Lyra held tighter, whispering in her alien tongue. Daniel did not know the words, but he felt their meaning through the bond. Trust. When they finally reached the valley floor, Daniel collapsed to his knees. He looked up at the vast darkness ahead. Strange lights flickered in the distance, not from hunters, but from something else. What is that? He asked aloud. Lyra's eyes widened, fear mixing with wonder. Ancient place. Where weapon sleeps. Daniel's stomach turned. They had escaped the hunters, for now. But the path ahead led not to safety, but to the very secret her people feared, and the hunters would not stop until they reached it first. Lyra clutched his arm, her voice trembling. If we go forward, there is no return. Daniel stared into the shadows, his heart heavy. He had no choice. Forward was the only way. Together, they stepped into the Valley of Secrets. The betrayal. The valley was deep and silent. Strange stone towers rose from the ground, carved with alien symbols that glowed faintly in the dark. Daniel carried a torch he had built from scraps, its small flame pushing back the shadows. Beside him, Lyra moved slowly, her wings dragging, her glowing eyes scanning the walls. This place, she whispered, her voice trembling, is older than my people. Older than war. Daniel touched the stone, feeling the strange warmth. And this is where the weapon is. She nodded weakly. Yes. The heart of it sleeps here. Before Daniel could ask more, movement flickered in the shadows ahead. His hand tightened on the steel pipe strapped to his belt. Then figures stepped out, humans. 3 of them. Armed, armored, with the insignia of a scavenger guild painted on their chest plates. Their leader, a tall man with sharp eyes, smiled when he saw Daniel. Well, the man said. Daniel Reed. I thought you were dead. Daniel froze. He recognized the voice. Garrick, an old partner from his scavenging days. A partner who had left him behind once before. Garrick, Daniel muttered. What are you doing here? Garrick smirked. Same as you. Looking for treasure. But it seems you've already found something far more valuable. His eyes shifted to Lyra, scanning her broken wings, her glowing marks. Lyra stiffened. She could feel his gaze like a blade. She's not treasure, Daniel snapped. She's with me. Garrick laughed. With you? Don't be foolish. Do you know what she is? Every hunter, every council, Every guild in the galaxy is looking for her. And you brought her here. Daniel's hand moved toward his pipe. Stay away from her. But Garrick lifted his gun, calm and steady. Daniel, think. She's the key to the weapon, isn't she? That's why they hunt her. With her, we could control it. We could own the stars. Lyra's brait. Hing quickened. She shook her head. No. Not control. Destroy. Daniel looked at her in shock. Destroy. Lyra, what do you mean? Her glowing eyes turned to him, full of sorrow. The weapon does not obey. It consumes. Whoever touches it, dies. Garrick's grin widened. She's lying. Aliens lie. You know that. Daniel felt torn. He wanted to trust Lyra, but doubt gnawed at him. Could she be hiding something? Then Garrick lowered his gun slightly, his voice soft. Daniel, we were partners once. Don't throw that away. Hand her over. Together, we'll be rich beyond imagination. For a moment, Daniel hesitated. His mind flashed with memories of hunger, of scraping for scraps just to survive. Garrick's words burned like temptation, but then he looked at Lyra. She was weak, trembling, yet her eyes still held hope. Hope in him. Daniel shook his head firmly. No. I won't betray her. Garrick's smile faded. His eyes turned cold. Then you're a fool. He raised his gun. Before he could fire, Lyra stepped forward. Her body glowed, symbols racing across her skin. A wave of energy burst outward, knocking Garrick and his men back. The cavern shook, dust raining from the ceiling, but the power took its toll. Lyra collapsed, blood on her lips. Daniel caught her, holding her close. You see? Garrick shouted, rising to his feet. She's dangerous. She'll kill you too. Daniel glared at him. No. She's not the danger. You are. Garrick's men lifted their weapons again. The air filled with tension, ready to explode into violence, but then the ground itself rumbled. The stone towers lit up, brighter than before. A deep hum filled the valley, shaking their bones. Lyra's eyes snapped open in terror. She whispered a single word, awakening. The weapon had heard them, and betrayal was only the beginning. Rising war, the ground trembled as the valley came alive. Stone towers glowed brighter, and strange lights pulsed beneath the earth like veins of fire. A low hum filled the air, steady and deep, as if something ancient had woken from sleep. Daniel held Lyra tightly, her weak body trembling in his arms. Garrick and his men stumbled back, fear spreading across their faces. What is this? One of them shouted. Lyra's voice was faint, but her words carried weight. The weapon, it feels us. It knows we are here. The hunter's words returned to Daniel's mind. If she awakens fully, the weapon will answer her, and now, it was answering. The hum grew louder. Above, the night sky cracked with lightning that had no storm. Strange shapes moved in the air, floating machines, ancient guardians stirring for the first time in centuries. Garrick cursed. We have to take her now. Before the aliens arrive. But it was already too late. From the cliffs, more shadows appeared. Dozens of hunters in red armor poured into the valley, their weapons glowing. Behind them marched machines of war, crawling on 4 sharp legs, each carrying cannons that lit the ground red. Lyra gripped Daniel's hand, her voice sharp with fear. The war begins again. Daniel's chest tightened. No, not again. The hunters spread out, shouting commands in their alien tongue. Their eyes burned with hatred as they looked at Lyra. The broken one must not reach the core. Daniel stepped in front of her, pipe in hand. His heart thundered, but he refused to move aside. You'll have to go through me. The hunters laughed, cruel and sharp. Their leader raised his blade. Then you will die with her. But then, from the far side of the valley, engines roared. Ships descended, their spotlights cutting through the darkness. Human soldiers leapt down, armored and armed, rifles glowing with energy. Garrick smile. D wickedly. Ah, finally. Reinforcements. The hunters turned their weapons on the humans, shouting war cries. In an instant, the valley became a battlefield, red beams slashed the air. Explosions shook the ground. Metal screamed as machines clashed. Human soldiers shouted orders, firing at alien hunters. The air filled with smoke and fire. Daniel dragged Lyra behind cover as blasts tore through the stone. Stay with me, he shouted over the chaos, her glowing eyes locked on his. This is not war for land. Not war for power. They fight, for me. Daniel realized the truth. Both sides wanted her. Humans wanted to use her to control the weapon. Aliens wanted to erase her to keep the weapon sealed. And she, weak, broken, but powerful, was trapped in the middle. A blast struck nearby, knocking Daniel to the ground. His pipe flew from his hands. He groaned, but before he could rise, a human soldier grabbed him. You're coming with us. No. Daniel shouted, struggling. Let me go. Another pair of hands grabbed Lyra, dragging her away. Her broken wings scraped the ground as she screamed, Daniel. He fought wildly, but soldiers forced him down. Through the smoke, he saw hunters charging the humans, blades flashing. The valley turned into chaos, fire raining from above, and then, the earth itself split. A massive crack opened in the ground, glowing with blinding light. The hum became a roar, shaking every stone. From the crack, a shape rose, colossal, ancient, a weapon of stars. Its body was made of dark metal, its eyes like suns. The weapon had awakened, the battlefield went silent. Human and alien alike froze, staring in horror. Lyra's voice was weak but clear, carried through the chaos. It does not belong to them. Or to you. It will destroy all. Daniel's heart pounded. He knew now, this was not just a war between humans and aliens. It was a war against the we. Apon itself, and only Lyra stood between life and destruction. The choice, the valley glowed with fire and smoke. Above, human ships circled like vultures. On the cliffs, alien hunters aimed their weapons, ready to strike. Between them, the ground had split open, and from it rose the weapon, vast, ancient, alive. Its body was like a fortress of metal, carved with glowing lines. Its eyes burned like suns, staring at everything with cold judgment. The air shook with its roar, a sound that was neither machine nor beast. Daniel pulled himself up from the rubble. His body ached, but his eyes stayed fixed on Lyra. She stood at the edge of the crack, her broken wings glowing faintly, her hair blowing in the heat of the rising weapon. Lyra. Daniel shouted, his voice hoarse. Stay back. She turned to him, and in her eyes he saw the truth. Fear. Sorrow. And something heavier, acceptance. The bond calls me, she whispered. It will not stop until I answer. Daniel stumbled toward her, ignoring the blasts of fire and the screams of soldiers around them. No. You don't have to. We'll find another way. But she shook her head. There is no other way. The weapon is awake. If I do not take it, it will take all. The choice hung heavy in the air. Above, Garrick shouted orders, pointing at Lyra. Take her alive. She's the key. Human soldiers charged forward, rifles glowing. From the cliffs, hunters leapt down, blades ready to kill. Both sides wanted her, but for opposite reasons, and Lyra stood between them all. Daniel reached her, grabbing her shoulders. His eyes burned. Lyra, listen to me. If you do this, you'll die. That thing will consume you. I can't. His voice cracked. I can't lose you. Her hand rose to his cheek, trembling but warm. Through the bond, he felt her heart. Broken, scarred, but full of something new. Hope. You gave me life when my own people left me, she whispered. You saw me, not as broken, but as someone who matters. That is why I must do this. Daniel shook his head fiercely. No. We'll fight it together. There has to be another choice. Her eyes softened. Together, or alone, the end will come. But if I give myself, maybe you can live. The words struck him like knives. She was ready to sacrifice herself. Before he could answer, the ground shook again. The weapon raised its colossal arm, and beams of light carved the sky. Ships exploded. Hunters scattered. The war paused as all eyes turned to the awakening giant. Its voice thundered, deep and merciless, all shall be unmade. Daniel's blood ran cold. This was not just a weapon. It was judgment. Lyra's wings flared brighter, her body glowing like fire. She turned back to Daniel one last time. I choose to save them. Even if it destroys me. No. Daniel roared, grabbing her hand. Then I choose too. I won't let you face this alone. The bond between them blazed. For a moment, Daniel felt her heart inside his chest, beating with his own. Their souls twined, human and alien, fragile and strong, and the weapon noticed, its blazing eyes locked onto them. Symbols on its body shifted, matching the same marks that glowed on Lyra's skin. The hum of power grew, shaking the earth until rocks split and towers collapsed. Both armies froze, watching. The broken alien and the human had become one. But the choice was not yet finished. Either they would master the weapon, or it would consume them both. The last stand. The valley shook like the heart of a storm. The colossal weapon stood tall, its eyes burning like suns, its voice echoing across the land. All shall be unmade. Human soldiers froze. Alien hunters dropped to one knee in fear. The air itself felt heavy, filled with the hum of endless power. Daniel clutched Lyra's hand. Their bond pulsed like fire between them. He could feel her heartbeat racing, her breath shallow, but her eyes burned with determination. This is it, she whispered. The weapon demands me. If I obey, it will destroy all. If I refuse, it will burn the stars. Daniel's jaw tightened. Then we fight it. Together. The weapon raised its arm. A beam of light split the sky, tearing through ships and mountains. The ground cracked, flames bursting upward. The battlefield became chaos, soldiers screaming, hunters charging, machines breaking apart, yet through it all, the weapon's gaze stayed locked on Lyra. She stepped forward, her broken wings glowing. No, she said, her voice trembling but strong. I am not yours. The giant roared. You were made for me. Symbols across its body lit up, the same ones glowing on her skin. She cried out in pain, clutching her chest. The bond pulled hard, dragging her toward the weapon's will. Daniel grabbed her shoulders. Fight it. You're stronger than this. Tears streamed down her face. Daniel, if I fight, I may not survive. He shook his head. Then I'll fight with you. If you fall, I fall too. For a moment, their eyes locked. In that look was everything, fear, hope, love, and the promise of unity. The bond flared. A shockwave burst outward, knocking back soldiers and hunters alike. Human and alien stopped fighting each other, staring at the impossible sight, the broken alien and the lone human glowing together, their bond shining brighter than the weapon itself. The weapon growled, its VO. Ice shaking the stars. You cannot resist. It raised both arms, beams forming in its hands. The ground cracked wide, rivers of fire spilling out. Daniel gritted his teeth, gripping Lyra's hand tighter. Then we resist with everything we have. Together, they lifted their hands. Light erupted from their bond, slamming into the weapon's beam. The sky exploded with fire and energy. The clash shook the valley, blinding every eye. Soldiers fell to the ground, covering their faces. Hunters cried out in fear. The war had stopped. All watched as two small figures stood against a god, but the weapon was endless. Its power poured like an ocean, crashing against them. Lyra screamed, her body shaking violently. Daniel felt the burn through the bond, fire tearing through his chest. Daniel, she cried. It's too much. He pulled her close, pressing his forehead against hers. No. We hold. We don't let go. Do you hear me? We never let go. Her glowing eyes widened. For a moment, strength returned. The bond pulsed harder, brighter, until it was no longer two lights, but one. The weapon staggered. Its beams faltered. Its voice roared with rage. Impossible. Daniel shouted back, his voice breaking. We're not yours. She's not broken, she's mine. The weapon shuddered. Cracks spread across its massive frame, light spilling from within like blood, but the bond burned hotter. Daniel's vision blurred. Lyra's body shook. Both of them knew the truth. Every second they held on, the power consumed them. Still, they refused to let go. The last stand had begun, and only one side would survive. The bond eternal, the valley burned like the end of the world. Smoke and fire filled the air as the weapon's body cracked, light spilling from its wounds. Its voice roared across the battlefield, all shall fall. All shall end. But it was weakening. At the center of the chaos stood Daniel and Lyra, their hands locked, their bond glowing like a star. The power surged through them both, burning their bodies, but neither let go. Daniel gritted his teeth. His arms trembled, his vision blurred, yet he held on. If I break, if I let go, she will die. Lyra's wings shone brighter, her broken feathers now made of pure light. Tears ran down her face, but her voice rose above the thunder. You are not my master, she shouted at the weapon. I am not your slave. The giant roared, beams of destruction slamming against their bond. The ground split, towers collapsed, armies fled in terror. Yet still, two small figures resisted. Hunters and humans alike stopped fighting. They could only watch, stunned. Their war no longer mattered. This battle was greater than them all. Daniel felt his heart pounding in rhythm with Lyra's. Every breath they took was shared. Every drop of pain was won. And through it, he felt her truth. She had been abandoned, rejected, forgotten. But she had never been weak. She had only been waiting for someone to stand with her, and he had chosen her. The bond flared. Light wrapped around them, not just power, but something more, trust, sacrifice, love. The weapon screamed as cracks spread wider across its body. Its voice shook with rage. You are nothing. You are fragile. You cannot stand against me. Daniel shouted back, his voice raw. Maybe we're fragile. Maybe we're nothing compared to you. But together, he looked at Lyra, his eyes burning. Together, we are stronger than you'll ever be. The weapon's body shattered. Pieces of ancient metal fell. Like stars. The ground quaked as its colossal frame began to collapse inward, sucked into a storm of light, but the power pulled at Lyra too. She gasped, her wings flickering. Daniel, it's taking me. I can't, hold on. He wrapped his arms around her. Then take me with you. We finish this together. Her glowing eyes filled with tears. No. You must live. The galaxy needs you. I need you, he whispered fiercely. Don't ask me to walk away. Their bond pulsed one final time, brighter than the sun. The weapon's roar turned into a scream, then into silence, as its body imploded, vanishing into the void. The storm faded. The valley grew still. When the dust settled, the weapon was gone, only Daniel and Lyra remained, lying together on the broken ground. Smoke drifted above them. Around them, soldiers and hunters stood in stunned silence. None dared to move. Daniel coughed, his body weak. He looked down at Lyra. Her wings were gone, only faint scars left on her back. Her skin glowed softly, fading slowly. Lyra, he whispered, fear in his voice. Stay with me. Her eyes opened. She smiled faintly, fragile but real. I am here. Not broken. Not alone. Daniel pulled her close, tears in his eyes. Never alone. Not anymore. The hunters lowered their weapons. The humans dropped theirs too. For the first time, both sides looked not at each other, but at the two who had saved them. Lyra's voice was soft but clear. The war is over. The weapon is gone. What happens next is choice. Daniel helped her to her feet. Their bond still glowed, faint but eternal. Together, they faced the armies, human and alien alike bowed their heads. For in that moment, they saw the truth: salvation had not come from power, or from armies, but from a bond between one human and one broken alien who had never been broken at all. Daniel smiled at her, his voice steady. So what do we do now? Lyra's glowing eyes shone with hope. We live. And with that, their story ended, not in war, not in fire, but in a bond that would never die, the bond eternal.